Hello YouTube viewers and Transformers fans of all ages, this is the TFN Geek coming to you with my next Transformers Generation / Classics or CHUG collection of Transformers characters. I decided to divide up my Transformers collection into groups of Transformers characters based on moments when they appeared in the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon for the original characters. So, we have here today the original Transformers Generation 1 1984 Season 1 Decepticon cast. So we have all the Decepticons who flew on board the Decepticon starship, which was in later comic book stories named the Nemesis. So here we have Megatron and all the Decepticons who appeared standing alongside him on planet Cybertron when the Transformers franchise was introduced. So these are the bad guys that set in motion the robotic civil war that has managed to outlast any robotic civil war or in any other fiction. And so yes, these are the bad guys that started the war between Optimus Prime and the Autobots' enemies, and well, they are the Autobots' enemies. So anyways, out of all the versions of the original Decepticon cast, which for me the original Decepticon cast is Megatron, Soundwave, Shockwave, the Decepticon Seeker Jets, Starscream and all his subsequent repaints, Soundwave's minions, and also the Decepticon Reflector. And out of all the toys of those characters that Hasbro has made, unfortunately not all of those Decepticons have been given proper Transformers toys. But of the ones that have been officially released by Hasbro here in the United States, these are the ones I believe that to this day, when I'm making this video in November of 2017 is the current month, these are the toys that did the best with recapturing / upgrading / updating those original Decepticon Transformers characters. So, of the versions of Classics Megatron, which I believe is the best alt mode, the version I decided to get is the Henkei version. Granted, it's not as G1 accurate of a paint job as the Transformers United version of Megatron, but I think the additional paint job that it has over the Transformers United version makes it a little less generic than compared to Transformers United, which is almost entirely silver, and gotta love that working trigger. So, yes, out of all the toys of Megatron, the Takara Tomy Henkei version is the one that I believe shines the most, and that is a case where definitely Takara Tomy overwon Hasbro. I said a moment ago that this was gonna be Hasbro toys, but Megatron is the exception. Definitely, as far as paint job goes, Takara Tomy definitely gave Megatron a better paint job than Hasbro did, even though Hasbro had to follow the anti-toy gun laws that exist here in the United States. Now, some of you who watched the Transformers Energon franchise know that this is actually the Transformers Energon Voyager class toy of the Transformers character named Shock Blast. At the time, in 2004, Hasbro wanted to include Shockwave in the Transformers Energon franchise, and since they lost the registered trademark to the name Shockwave, they changed his name to Shock Blast. And unfortunately, out of all the subsequent toys of Shockwave that have been released in recent years that actually have had the name Shockwave applied to them, in my personal opinion, Energon Shock Blast is the one that still comes closest to looking most like G1 Shockwave. And I've actually seen photos online where people actually bought two versions of Shock Blast. They switched out his enormous cannon with another robot arm, gave him a more G1 accurate paint job, and he did look like Generation 1 Shockwave as an updated figure. So I'm kind of upset that Hasbro never considered in the original Transformers Universe toy line before it got cancelled repainting Energon Shock Blast into Generation 1 Shockwave, because I think that would have been an awesome classic style toy. Now for moving on to Soundwave. I was going to bring out the War for Cybertron Deluxe class version of Soundwave, but then when I saw photos on Google Images how the Generation 1 Shockwave toy was almost an entire head taller than Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, and all the Seekers, I figured the War for Cybertron version of Shockwave is the one that comes closest to... the Fall of Cybertron Voyager class version of Soundwave is the one that comes closest to representing Generation 1 Soundwave, and as you can see, I have him transformed into... This is my personal rendition of the fan-made boombox mode that was created for Soundwave, and at the end of the first Transformers War for Cybertron video game, when the end credits roll, I saw on a video of YouTube that Soundwave actually transforms into a boombox that's shaped a lot like this, and he played the exit music while the end credits rolled after you won the War for Cybertron game. So, thank you Hasbro and Takara Tomy for designing a toy of Soundwave that can successfully transform into the type of vehicle he had in the actual War for Cybertron video game. And granted, I do acknowledge that the brand new Titans Return Legends class toys of Laserbeak, Ravage, and Buzzsaw, they are slightly more accurate than the data discs that Soundwave deploys, but in terms of size accuracy with other Transformers characters that have been released in the Generations toy line and other subsequent toy lines, the data discs that actually launch out of Fall of Cybertron Soundwave are the ones that are the most size accurate to Soundwave's minions. And to my knowledge, Buzzsaw, he did not actually appear until, I think, episode 18 or 19 of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, which was at the start of Season 2, but from what I read on Wikipedia, some of the first episodes of Season 2 of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon were originally supposed to be included in Season 1. And also, Frenzy, he did actually appear in Season 1 before the season ended, so he could actually qualify for being an extended cast member, which I hopefully plan on doing a video review of the extended Season 1 on Transformers Generation 1 Decepticon cast before the day is over. So I just decided to include Buzzsaw and Frenzy because a lot of people tend to group Buzzsaw and Frenzy with Laserbeak, Ravage, and Rumble, and being the first wave of Soundwave's minions that Soundwave was able to play out of his chest. And also in the original Transformers Generation 1 toy line, Buzzsaw was in fact the minion that Soundwave was packaged with. Rumble, Frenzy, Ravage, and Laserbeak were available in 2-packs, so that's my excuse for bringing Buzzsaw out here with these guys. And for the Decepticon Seekers, unfortunately, in my opinion, the ones that are still the best versions are the original Classics Deluxe class versions. And as some of you can probably tell, both Starscream and also Skywarp are custom painted action figures, and Starscream was originally Thundercracker, so this toy looked like this one, and Skywarp was actually originally Universe Acid Storm, who was the green jet over here, so this toy originally looked just like that green one over there. So I desperately wanted to have Starscream and Skywarp included with my Thundercracker and Acid Storm Decepticon Seeker jets, but the original versions of Starscream and Skywarp, both of the versions released by Hasbro and Takara Tomy, were super expensive. They were already in aftermarket prices, and I figured, why don't I put my custom paint job skills to the test, and so I made my own Starscream and Skywarp, and to this day that was a much cheaper route for me than buying the official toys. Now, last but definitely by no means least, the Decepticon character who is overlooked the most out of all these guys, Reflector. To this day, there is no proper toy of Reflector that has been released in any Transformers toy line, in my opinion, since Generation 1. And the original figure wasn't even released in 1984 along with the rest of the Decepticon cast, even though Reflector appeared as early as Episode 1 of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon. He did not appear. He was not released as a toy until the year 1986, and he was only available as a mail-away order if you earned so many points buying so many other Transformers toys. So yes, out of all of the original Season 1 Decepticon cast, Reflector has been given the least love. Now, I don't know if that has to do with how the character Reflector was drawn up, where he was one robot that existed in 3 bodies at the same time, but out of all the Transformers toys that have been released, the one that comes closest to representing Reflector properly is this one right here, and his name's actually written on right there, Photon T-34. This toy was one of the Transformers 2007 Movie 1 Real Gear robot toys that was released in the first live-action Transformers movie toy line. And when we get to robot mode, there's actually 2 other of the Real Gear robots that I use for Reflector's robot mode, but because Reflector transformed into just one camera, I have substituted Photon for Reflector's vehicle mode. I actually saw on Google Images someone did a digibash of where up to 3 versions of Photon were painted in Reflector's G1 colors, and they were able to combine together, and they were able to separate into 3 robots, and they custom modified in the image parts that would have been moved to allow 3 robots to combine into 1 camera, just like Generation 1 Reflector. So why in the world Hasbro or Takara Tomy never decided to do that for Reflector is beyond me. The only toy of Reflector that has been released in the Generations toy line was the tiny little Target Master / Micromaster partner that came with Legends Class Shrapnel, aka Scrapnel. And in my opinion, that's just the worst toy of Reflector that could ever be given. In my opinion, the quintessential toy of Reflector is Perfect Effects version of Reflector. Those toys were Legends Class. Yes, I forgot the official name Perfect Effect gave it, but yes, in my opinion, third party is where Reflector has been given the most love, and also the most toys. There are at least 3 versions of Reflector that have been released that are masterpiece scale, and they were all released by third-party Transformers companies. So to this day, Reflector has been given the least amount of love by both Hasbro and Takara Tomy, and I doubt that Reflector will be given a proper toy in the near future. The closest Hasbro did was repainting Combiner Wars Legends Class Shockwave into Reflector, giving him a new head. And unfortunately, that toy was sold at the last BotCon convention last year in 2016, but if that toy had been released at mass retail as sort of like a goodbye and farewell to BotCon, I think Hasbro would have made a lot of money releasing the BotCon exclusive version of Reflector at mass retail. So a brief moment while I get these guys into robot mode, and as a lot of you, going back to Shock Blast recently, I forgot to touch on it. Some of you have probably noticed that I only have transformed Shockwave / Shock Blast out of his robot mode. His official vehicle mode is a space cannon, and in my opinion it doesn't look at all like the laser gun cannon that G1 Shockwave transformed into, so this is just a fan mode, what I like to call the G1 mode for Shock Blast. So a brief moment while I transform these guys for you, off camera. Alright, hopefully they stand up long enough for me to finish the video, but here are all the Decepticons transformed into robot mode. And I think they look pretty amazing, considering the toys Hasbro had to work with, vehicle mode distinction and other stuff like that. I think the updated toys came out looking alright. So here they all are: Megatron, Shockwave, Soundwave's minions, the Seekers, including Acid Storm. I would have included Sunstorm, but the cheapest Seeker that I could find on Amazon.com was Generations Thundercracker, and he was selling for about $40, and I figured if I were to get another version of Thundercracker and custom paint him into Sunstorm like I did with Starscream, it probably wouldn't be worth the $40 price. So I'm glad that Hasbro announced that Starscream is one of the Transformers characters being given a brand new Voyager class toy in the Transformers Power of the Primes toy line. I am keeping all fingers crossed that Hasbro announces that Starscream is going to be repainted in the Power of the Primes toy line into Thundercracker and Skywarp, just like he was in the Combiner Wars toy line and in the overall Transformers Generations toy line, and also in the Classics toy line. Basically, if you actually go to Wikipedia, just about every toy of Starscream that has been released in the Transformers Generations and Classics toy lines, they were all eventually repainted down the line into Thundercracker and Skywarp. The biggest time gap is that the original Classic Starscream was released in 2006 and Thundercracker was released in 2011, so that's the biggest time gap, is that it took 5 years for Hasbro to repaint Classic Starscream into Thundercracker. But other than that, all the other toys of Thundercracker and Skywarp that have been released in the Generations toy line they're all repaints of a toy of Starscream that was created. So I am going to say it right now: if Hasbro does announce that Power of the Prime Starscream is going to be repainted into Thundercracker and Skywarp, I would buy them. I personally hope that Hasbro does not look at the fact that the Combiner Wars Leader Class version of Skywarp shelf-warmed for several months. I hope that does not deter them from repainting Power of the Prime's Voyager Class Starscream into Thundercracker and Skywarp, because That is what Transformers fans have been waiting since 2006, when classic-style Transformers toys were first created, was to have Voyager-class toys of the 3 original Decepticon Seekers, maybe the Coneheads as an afterthought, and then Acid Storm, I meant to say, Sunstorm, and the Rainmakers would probably be the third group. But yes, I think they all look personally well. Now you may have noticed I brought out 2 more robots. These are Power Up, and I can't remember this guy's name. He's the Decepticon Real Gear robot that turned into a cell phone. Wiretap was his name. And so, what I do personally is, for Reflector, since the official toys of Reflector that Hasbro has released have been garbage, so much garbage that my tongue is failing me once again. But yes, what I do for Reflector is, I use Photon's vehicle mode of a camera as Reflector's vehicle mode, and then to get Reflector into his robot mode, I also bring out 2 of the other Real Gear robots, Power Up, who transforms into a handheld video game, and also Wiretap, who transforms into a cell phone, and I use all 3 of those toys for Reflector's robot mode. So yes, this has been my collection of the original Transformers Generation 1 Season 1 1984 classic/generation style quote-unquote updated/upgraded versions of the original Decepticon cast of Transformers characters, and hopefully before the day's over, I probably won't be able to get it uploaded onto YouTube since my Wi-Fi is very slow, but I'm hoping to do an extended Season 1 Decepticon cast video review where I cover Devastator and the Insecticons who make up the extended Season 1 Decepticon cast. So yes, even when you include the extended Season 1 cast, the Decepticons were outnumbered throughout the first season by the Autobots almost 3-1, which is why in most episodes of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, duplicates of Reflector's robot mode and duplicate Seekers, whose paint job closest to resemblance was to Thundercracker's paint job of primarily blue, were used as sort of filling characters to make the number of Decepticons and the number of Autobots evened out, and after the Insecticons and the Constructicons were introduced, the Decepticons' numbers gradually swelled up, but it was not until... Actually, I made a list one day of every Transformers character that appeared in the entire Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, and I believe there were about 24 more Autobots than Decepticons, so... Unfortunately, that's one thing Megatron never was able to do, is outnumber Optimus Prime's men. But they tried, and tried, and tried, and have been trying for the last 33 years, so... Kudos to Megatron for being the most stubborn villain of all time, in my opinion. So thank you so much for watching. This has been the TF Fan Geek. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, and have a great day.